Colleagues, thank you. Maria, thank you. Let me greet everyone. I can't see you face to face, but I'm hopeful that everyone is watching us. Why have we decided this year, unlike previous gas monetization conferences, to talk about transport infrastructure? Everyone knows that gas cam and production and transport of high added value products, including ammonia and things, is very popular in Russia and elsewhere. The general idea is that all these projects are export orientated, and the existing export contracts, especially for methanol, are rather limited as they had been formed over many years and stabilized. But the big question is whether they're sufficient and efficient for the new projects that might come about. The same applies to railroad infrastructure, the rolling stock, including transshipment via foreign ports. These are all the things that we are going to discuss today. So we have relevant subject matter experts. Olga engages in marine, whereas Igor is rail. So let me encourage you to use chat to ask your questions. So please be actively involved. Let's begin with Olga. Olga represents MORSTROYTECHNOLOGY company, which is one of the main companies dealing with ports and terminals in Russia. Good afternoon. As Andrei said, MORSTROYTECHNOLOGY does design of port infrastructure, and we have a group within our organization that analyzes markets and traffic flows, because ports are connected to rail transport and air transport. It has to be commercially viable and meet the needs of exporters. What I do in the company is this exactly marketing thing. This is why we follow closely various markets, including methanol, and share our findings, including such forums like today's. If we look at the exports of methanol from the Russian Federation, that's the official stats of the Russian customs. Two things to pay attention to. It is growing, which is very encouraging, and we're hopeful that this trend will continue. And second, as per the official stats, it's exported to just 18 countries. This may not reflect the true state of things, because some volumes from Finland can go on elsewhere, so it's essentially transit, not export. But otherwise, you can see that many global consumers are absent from these slides, which means that there are certain logistical problems here. One slide has gone missing. Oh no, it hasn't. Here it is. So, methanol export. How does it happen now? This map shows main exporters and the structure of their supplies. The closer to the western border of the Russian Federation, Shokin Azot, for example, these are rail supplies to Europe via rail. But further we go to the east, the more of port supplies are there. Rail logistics is more difficult farther east, hence more need for sea shipments and ports. If you look at Shokin Azot, that has traditionally focused on railroad logistics, it now has certain volumes for Hamina port and Kafkas port. As the export volume grows and production develops, this need for seaports is growing too. It reflects in transshipment volumes in the Hamina port, we see that they are doubled over the past 5 years. The port infrastructure in Russia for methanol does exist, however, it does not conform to the requirements set forward by the exporters. There are existing terminals in the port of Nakhodka, for example, that was designed specifically for methanol, but it doesn't work with it now, and instead it transships petroleum products. Again, transshipment is available in ports Kavkaz and Temryuk, Azov Sea for low tonnage vessels, low volumes of batches, which kind of conditions what kind of markets can be serviced through those ports, particularly the Black Sea region, probably some of the Mediterranean. There are certain directions where the supplies have reduced. More of half of the export goes through rail. As a result, you can see that our main export channel is Port Hamina. However, there are quite a number of projects that appeared recently. There was a break in the broadcast. Well, some of the projects have not yet defined what they need in terms of the terminal infrastructure. At the same time, we have quite a number of projects that are landlocked in Russia, and for all of them, it's very relevant what to do with sea exports and how this can be handled. So there are the following principal solutions: keeping the existing channels, for example, Finnish ports. It has quite a few advantages, although downsides as well. Advantages include because it's the established export channel, and from the purely technical point of view, capacity can be expanded, although as traders and exporters say, the companies do not wish to commit to that for some reason. And another case for the Finnish ports, we don't have the information on the transshipment rates, but it's about 20 euros from all I know. So if you compare the scenario of building the terminal from scratch in Russia, the transshipment rate will be a lot higher. So another thing that I would like to talk to you about is where terminals can be built and what kind of requirements can be set for this terminal. Obviously, new construction is going to be very expensive. If we talk about methanol export from the central Russia, not near ports, then we are going to have to need railroad access. And such sites are scarcely available. So another option is to build methanol terminal within a major port project. For example, if we take the Baltics, we can look for synergies to get with other investors in order to reduce the costs of constructing a methanol terminal. I believe that this may not be a very promising option. If we look at what's happening in the Baltic area now, so this is the region which is of interest to many exporters. I believe that on the one hand there are many projects that have been declared, but the main impetus for the development of the port construction comes from coal. And even last year already it was clear that the coal market is slumping. And all these projects started to be suspended. There are projects for the terminals for transshipping mineral fertilizers, and synergies can be identified there, I think. But again, talking about design norms for seaports, for example, the distance between the loading and unloading spots of methanol has to be at least 250 meters from the closest building or structure. And this has to be taken into account while designing the terminal. It has to be taken care of from the very beginning. And again, methanol being a highly flammable fluid, there is a requirement that berths need to be specially prepared for it. So essentially there has to be a separate berth for that. If methanol, however, there are few projects for bulk loading of methanol, hence this option may not be promising enough. Another option is working with other cargoes at the plants built near ports. This could boost the economic performance of the project. But if you look at specifically the projects that are available at the moment, several considerations can be made there. First, in terms of solutions for loading terminals, these solutions are still under development. It will take time to get it to the stage of designing and construction, so that's the matter of time. The second thing is risks. If we talk about terminals like that form part of the production facilities, they have to assume the risks not just of the terminal but of the production side, which means risks are bigger than normal. And third, which is important in my opinion, exporters in this case will be essentially competitors in this terminal. So the benefits of securing other cargoes may not be enough to justify this competition. Why they may not be enough? If we look at the projects of these new capacities for new terminals, the near port plants, so the gas comes there via the pipeline, and the plant itself and the plant itself has to include all those fronts, rail front, etc., into the project. So there has to be a special agreement at the design stage. And second, it boosts capex in any event. And I believe that this course of action is not as promising for exporting methanol. Most realistic option is transforming the existing product terminals. So according to the forecasts we have, the export of products is going to stagnate or even reduce. There'll be a change in the structure of export too, and hence, in connection with implementing projects for pipeline transport, I mean transporting diesel to the ports of Primorsk and Novorossiysk, there is strong competition from the pipeline transport. So there has been certain rearrangement of the transport flows. However, it creates the environment for freeing up some of the terminal capacity. So such transformation is possible. However, when we talk about transforming or building new terminals, so what kind of terminal it has to be? Olga, your sound flow keeps interrupting and you're hardly understandable. May I ask you to come back and talk again about transforming the existing terminals? So let me stay on this slide then, because it doesn't have a direct connection. As for transforming the existing petroleum product terminals, technologically this is possible because the capacities have very similar characteristics. And second, markets recently have experienced reductions of exports and change in the structure. Light products grow, heavy products share declines. Since Rosneft implemented the projects of transporting diesel via pipeline to Novorossiysk and Primorsk port, more competition there is now for the terminal that are connected to the pipeline. The market has adapted to these changes to a certain extent. However, this creates some foundation for some terminals to have reduced loads and to look for alternative transport flows. So if we want to answer the question where we can see new terminals, first of all we need to answer ourselves what kind of terminals these should be. So I'll voice my opinion now and be happy if someone comments on that. First of all, we need to understand what markets the product is going to be shipped to. Yesterday, when we talked with Lara Burton, and when she described promising markets for Russian methanol, she believed that the European markets are going to need the Russian methanol, but no one, well, she mentioned the US, but no one is speaking about Asian markets. However, if we look at potentially big new volumes, we have to find new markets, especially the ones that are growing. And I'm talking about Asia Pacific, China, India, and in order to enter those markets, we need to have the proper sized vessels in order to compensate for the logistic costs. Because if we recollect what Lara told us yesterday, that flow from Iran, for example, makes a very tough competition. So the size of the vessel, the current chemical transport vessels up to 50,000 tons of dead weight. So the minimum is that is required for new terminals is 30 to 40,000 tons. Availability of railroad access is highly desirable, and it would be great if ports is put at a distance from build-up area, because especially if there is some chemical cluster, chemical production there. Most vessels for chemicals have several sections that can carry various chemicals. So if they can load various chemicals at one port, it will be beneficial to everyone. So given these requirements, possible locations are very few. Ust-Luga in the Baltic region, for one. Speaking about specific locations, so first, Ust-Luga's contender is Port Energo. It's as good as thriller what's happening around this port at the moment. In the near future, LPG volumes are expected to decrease, and there'll be some available capacity, and there are a lot of contenders to snap that up. Close to the terminal of Port Energo, there are certain plans to locate a loading terminal from the Baltic Chemical Complex, and there is no final solution at the moment whether the capacity of the Port Energo are going to be utilized or whether this is going to be a standalone terminal. Yet these negotiations are underway, which has been confirmed through several sources, and Gazprom and the Rusgaz, oh, I can't remember, sorry, names are very close, were in negotiations, are said to have been in negotiations with Sibur. The terminal doesn't belong to Sibur, but again, there are very many takers because the terminal is very suited to methanol. Another one is Vysotsk, with the existing terminal of RPK Lukoil Vysotsk that recently started a tender for design, and reconstruction is supposed to be done in order to receive up to 1 million tons of methanol. The works are due to be completed in 2021, and obviously this terminal is designed to receive products from the market. There'll be railroad loading racks. Synthos gas project is located nearby, and according to the design parameters, I believe it's not taken into account, which may mean that there are no definite agreements there. Primorsk is another possible location for the terminal, and some time ago the territorial planning for that area envisaged creation of the both production and loading methanol complex. There used to be Primorsk Razvitya, Primorsk Development Company, part of Suma Group, that wanted to build methanol capacity, but given the uncertainty surrounding the Suma Group, this project has faded away. So, and another matter is still unresolved, constructing railroad accessing St. Petersburg port. St. Petersburg oil terminal has the characteristics to handle methanol as well. One thing, though, is that it's located within the city, essentially, which can create certain risks. If we look at the World Cup, methanol is not just hazardous cargo. It carries a threat to life and health of people. So before the World Cup, all methanol transit through St. Petersburg was banned. And if we look at the south, the most obvious point, their location is Tamань. Novorossiysk, in the strategy of 2017, there was a plan for the 2 million tons of methanol terminal, but then the strategy has been revisited many times. IPP took an interest last year in the methanol markets, commissioned a market survey. However, we are not aware of any findings and action plans because they keep working on mineral fertilizers rather than methanol at the moment. Again, the location of IPP within the territory of the city creates certain risks. So in this slide, the most promising location is Tamань. And even before, well, this is a production project, right? But as far as I understand, there are no definite timelines there. So it's more long-term planning. But again, the company is already planning to transform some of the reservoirs from LPG to methanol of 0.7 million tons capacity. So these are only intentions at the moment. So it takes a long way before implementation. And the Far East, if you look at the Far East, the region around the big port of the free port of Vladivostok. It's called Port of Vladivostok, but territorially it's not within Vladivostok, the city of Vladivostok, but very close to it. There are no existing production capacities there, but there are many initiatives underway to create terminals. As far as I know, methanol terminals are not among them, but this territory is very promising in terms of putting terminals there. So this is where probably I would conclude my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Sorry for dumping it all on you. Thank you. Olga, thank you. I believe that there was just an issue with sound.
Okay, we'll be expecting questions through the chat, and this is going to be an opportunity for clarification if it is needed. And there's a dedicated time for Q&A after presentation.